thinking about going back in time. I got very sick with Lyme disease. I was on the deathbed really with Lyme disease. I was looking for all ways of healing. Having a background from another country, Dominican Republic, they still use, third world countries use a lot of natural plant medicine. The conventional medicine, it was being too hard on me. It was repairing one thing, it was healing one thing, but then hurting other aspects of that protocol. So, anyway, I decided to go down the holistic route and all the natural ways. And that took me through my catharsis, or what everybody's calling the awakening, or it was that pivotal moment when you remember. So, I went through this holistic healing circle. We were sending out healing to each one in the group. So people were in the circle and we would focus and send healing. That was the instructions. But I remember that I started to close my eyes and I started to see forms or objects rotating around people. And
Wow.
in my mind, they would sometimes show up elliptically, moving around a person, or it could have been in circular. It had all these different configurations these objects would do around people. And I started to focus in with what now I understand was my third eye. And I started to focus on the object, and I would soon understand that it was some kind of crystal or stone. So, mind you, I have no background. I've always liked stones and crystals to decorate, and they've always called my attention, and that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I decide to go back home, and every time we had one of the healing circles, I look up the property of that item or object, crystal that I was seeing, and it would connect exactly with whatever the person had, the illness. Like the message was point on point for the healing for that particular person or illness. That's where my story begins, with the crystals and the crystal kingdom and the crystal consciousness. You know how some people can connect with animals and they call them the animal whisperers. Some people have with flowers or gardening, they just
Nature
have that
element.
that connection. I just happened to have it with the crystals. That's where it started to begin. And I started to like, this is crazy. I'm making this up. This is nuts. But then I started seeing, whoa, the significance or the meaning of this crystal really, really coincides with the healing part aspect of this. Then I was in a group for Kabbalah, which is one of the mystery schools. It took me down a rabbit hole, spiritual learning, all this. So I meet these ladies at Kabbalah, and one of them owns a crystal shop. So she has their 2 rooms in the basement. It's actually beautiful. It's like an oasis. It has the background of a river or a pond or something. No, it's a river in the background. Anyway, she has this crystal basement full of all these beautiful crystals that she's purchased. I walk in there synchronistically. I mean, for this particular person, she invites me, whatever, and I go in there and bam, I started to, I could grab one crystal and then I'd feel it in different sections, and then I'd feel whatever the feeling might be coming up. So let's say if it was bumblebee jasper, I feel like this burst in my chest of happiness. Then from there, it was just visiting her and then having these experiences. And then I started to write down what I felt and what that crystal brought up for me. I didn't know the properties. I didn't know any information really. That took me again to another path. Pages and things come up for me on computers, and sometimes I take them as a sign. So this course started coming up with Hibiscus Moon. Hibiscus Moon is an academy, a crystal academy. And there was another one that was coming up too, and I was between both of them. But what I liked about the Hibiscus Crystal Academy is that she started it, and she's a teacher in geology. She
Yeah, I'm
was
familiar with her.
you're
Yeah,
familiar
I
with her?
follow her. Yeah.
Yeah. And wow, I took the course. She is a plethora of information and science based. She really opened my world every step of the way. I was guided. So then I took other courses. I took pranic healing. I've taken Reiki and everything. But when I go and I do the crystal healing itself, it's pretty much guidance. And then the crystals do the work. The crystals choose the people, and I laid them out in the forms and formats that I was shown, but a lot of it is guidance. Then after that is guidance, high vibrational music to help. And I've incorporated some of the NLP learnings, working with the unconscious mind while they're in on a bed. And it's taken me to this point. And they talked to me. I wrote something on Moldavite. Well, yesterday or something I posted on my channel. Moldavite the other day with the full moon showed up out of nowhere in my bathroom floor. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I take it. Yesterday, I worked with it and then I put it on my nightstand. It wasn't there anymore. And I'm like, what is with this Moldavite? It keeps on hiding, coming up and everything. And then finally, I found it inside my drawer. I know it was on my nightstand. I found it there. I took it out. So last night, I don't recommend anybody sleep with Moldavite, but I did sleep with Moldavite, and I'm like, okay, you want to work with me? They come up like that. I wake up, and if I see a crystal, sometimes my eye will be taken to that crystal, and I know that day that crystal's working with me. It's just organic and intuitive.
And you brought up a good point, because that's been one of my favorite things, like working with crystals. And it comes up a lot, I'm sure, with you too, people asking us, well, which crystal should I pick and what do I do with it when I get it? And there really is just this kind of natural flow where the crystals do find you. And I kind of early into my collecting crystals, I think I had like a collection of 5 I had picked up at like local crystal stores, metaphysical shops and things like that. And I would put them out, for the new moons and the full moons. And I had, just a little flower pot in front of our house that I would put them in. So it was very easy to, find them at that time. And I remember I went back out the next morning, I bring my crystals back in, and the following day I'm out front. And I noticed it was so tiny, like the size of, my pinky nail. And I'm looking on the ground, I'm going, well, that's not a normal rock. It was almost like this black color with a little bit of purple to it, nicely polished, small. I know I didn't have that because I know what, 5 little crystals I own right now at the moment. And I was trying to figure out what it was. And it was so small, it was hard to kind of pinpoint, doing searches online and checking the books and things. And maybe a couple or a few years later, it had gone by and I had actually been at the hospital with my father, going through cancer treatment. And it reminded me of it again. I had, been kind of keeping it, and I searched and looked it up. The meanings and the metaphysical properties fit everything that was going on. So then I decided, okay, well, I need a bigger piece, that I can carry and not worry about losing. And I go to this metaphysical shop and I ask the lady, and I'm going, gosh, $25 for that little stone piece. And she says, that's extremely rare. It's from Africa. That was kind of my first like aha moment of, they will literally show up if they're meant to be in your life, and you will be guided for the information that you need that resonates with, where you're at life, for it to kind of help you. And like, even for me, I would collect and I would collect. And my first crystal I ever got, someone gifted to me.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was actually a piece of just clear quartz. It was so important because it was gifted to me. I had done Reiki sessions with her for about maybe a year and a half. I'm carrying this piece around. And then I had met another gal, I started collecting more. And I just intuitively felt guided to give it to her one day. And I told her, hey, I've been carrying this for years. Someone gifted it to me, but I feel like, my work's done with it. And I want to gift it on to you. Be drawn in the morning to grab a certain crystal and put it in my pocket and, go about my day. And I'd be at a gas station or an appointment for something, and I'd hear spirit, give it to that person. And it's like, oh, okay. And then I would tell the person, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm really into crystals and I feel like guided to give you this crystal. And this is what this crystal's supposed to help with. And oh my God, that's amazing. That's exactly what I have going on in my life. Or rose quartz is a funny one that I gifted to so many men. It's very funny. That's like a very common one I feel guided to give to males. And they'll tell me, I just broke up with the love of my life. I just went through a bad relationship. I'm searching for love. And the people I was able to stay in contact with, often within weeks of me gifting it to them, all of a sudden found themselves in a new relationship, or kind of out of that heavy heartbreak, energy. I think what makes it magical and fun working with them. And again, as much as I love like hoarding my collection of crystals and some have sentimental value, I enjoy gifting them to people so much more. I sell crystals and I end up giving a lot more away. And you brought up another good point too, about being drawn to them before you kind of got into it and started working with them for healing. keeping kind of stones and rocks around. I was one of those kids that would bring stones and rocks home that I found. And I would even put sticks and crystals, and I didn't know they were grids at the time. It energetically or intuitively felt right to place them a certain way. And over the years, I've met a lot of people that did the same thing as kids. They wouldn't necessarily consider themselves into crystals, but as a child, they felt drawn to grab a certain rock when they were out somewhere and place it in their home. So it just again kind of goes to show that there's just some natural,
Mhm.
universal, cosmic, magic going on out there that if it wants you to have it, it's going to find a way to give it to you. I'm familiar with people using crystals and Reiki energy
Mhm.
healing and placing on certain parts of the body or on the table and things like that. Is that kind of similar that what you do when you're doing the kind of energy work with the crystals?
Well, when the person comes in to see me, so I do three checkpoints. I consider them checkpoints for myself, just to make sure. Or although I truly believe energy doesn't lie, as in this human experience, I just like checking myself. And so I go in. There's an intake form that the person has to fill in. It's divided into chakra, the main energy points in the body. So there's several questions on those energy points. Then I do a pendulum check on the body, and then I do a scanning. Sometimes I use kinesiology to see if the crystal that the person has chosen is the best crystal. So I do, when I say kinesiology, I do the muscle testing to make sure that the crystal is adequate, or can we find another one better fit to do the work? So I'll do that as well. And then I do a body scan with my hands. So we know we have nadis, which are energy points in the hands, and I usually rub the hands, and then I do an energy scan on the body. And in the energy scans, I can feel and sense whether the temperature has changed on the body, whether sometimes I can feel for holes, what I perceive, right, as holes. There could also be resistance or blocks, and it feels like chunks, like a wall sometimes, depending. It's interesting. The more I do it, the easier it gets for me in sensing around a person's body. Just the same way people take care of their physical body and their mental body, there's energy hygiene. And that's what I am working on that field, on that level. The crystals definitely choose them. So our energy tends to entropy. So that means that our energy tends to move. Whereas the energy of the crystals, their molecular structure is more fixed. And so they have a more fixed energy. That's why our energy will move to theirs, because theirs is more fixed. And then the healing is through that. It's just a movement in energy in the body by the field and frequency brought in by this crystal. Some people, it's like, oh, woo woo, but really now with all the scientific proof and quantum physics and neuroscience studies coming in, it makes sense how the crystals coming into our energy field can have movement, like a movement for trapped emotions, just to move out of the body, things that we probably hadn't realized that is there.
And you made a good point. Some people think, ooh, that's just woohoo, metaphysical, out there, crazy talk. But I had actually watched a documentary about crystals and I hadn't even known that because, I am more into the kind of magical woohoo side of it. But our computers, our electronics that we use every single day have crystals in them.
That's right.
Microsoft found a way to use that to help us. And so as people don't realize is in some ways we're all surrounded by some type of crystal every day, when we turn our television on, when we get on our computer at work, when we are on our cell phones playing and things like that. So it's
You're
just
right.
like, yeah, it's
You're right.
amazing. Yeah.
And we're the biggest crystal. I mean, think about it. We're made of what stars are made, all this mineral composition. We are the biggest crystal. And I tell people when we get into groups, it's so important because it's like crystal human beings coming together. And we're the biggest, it's like a crystal quartz, which is the biggest amplifier. So when we get together, we magnify and amplify energy. We are also a mineral based little vessel,
Yeah.
a lot similar like the crystals themselves.
What would you say if you had to say like a common crystal that comes up to be used or one that you see like more frequently to use with clients? What would you say like a couple or a few of those would be that you come across? Because I know there's hundreds of crystals that we can get into, and then there's some that are more common, but I'm just curious in your practice and working with clients if there's a few that you specifically
See over
that.
and over again. I see the amethyst for sure.
Yeah, which is
Amethyst.
my favorite. Yeah.
I love amethyst. What do you like about it? What do you like?
Well,
What?
it's my birthstone, but I
Oh,
love it.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and it's got it again, so many different properties to it. So
You're
it's
a
kind of
Pisces, correct? You're a
yeah,
Pisces.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's like
Uh-huh.
a uplifting, high vibrational stone. It also, though, at the same time can be kind of a calming, comforting stone. I feel also protective like from it too. It also has protective qualities to it. And then you can again mix it with other ones. Like I remember learning you can mix the amethyst and rose quartz and clear quartz, and it's supposed to actually help calm for nightmares. And again, I like the color purple too, but for me, I feel very high vibrational. I feel like very protected at the same time. And that's one that if I know I'm going into like a heavy, I love my black tourmaline too, but if I know I'm going into like a heavier situation or my
Yeah.
mood feels kind of heavy or down, I make a point to wear my amethyst necklace or bring it around. And I've got amethyst all over my home. One of my first big stones that I had ever purchased from somebody happens to be like an amethyst. Some ones that I've been gifted and things like that. But yeah, that's one of my favorite besides the black tourmaline.
And you're spot on. You're spot on. And you also mentioned that's another one that gets used a lot, the rose quartz. I also see the calcite family, the blue calcite, the orange calcite. I love working with calcite because it is a very soft energy. However, it is very powerful. But of the main ones, actually carnelian comes up too. Some of the jaspers. And it's interesting because if you buy those kits usually that you find any different stores or whatever for the seven chakras, they're usually the same, aventurine and everything. But interesting to say, people will choose those more often than not without knowing that those are like usually the ones that come in kits. So I also have noticed that. Very interesting. And I have like an array, selection, like plenty. So it's not like I have 2 or 3 pieces that they can choose up, from when they walk in there.
I'm more familiar with that being used for pain in the body, like physical illness or physical ailments and symptoms. Do you see that being kind of more common for people, that are kind of going through that,
Yes,
or
yes.
again, more on a like energetic level?
No, you see, it's interesting because you're explaining it, and I'm going to ask you too because I'm really interested from a buyer's perspective. How do you sell them? Do you choose them when you buy them? But I'll get to that to
Yeah.
ask you because I'm interested just as well on from your perspective. But when somebody comes in, you can see all kinds of layouts. Usually, the first thing I like to work with people when they come for the first time is alignment, and it is a crystal for. Well, first of all, I let them choose a crystal. The crystal chooses them. And then according to the crystals that they've chosen, I could tell whether it is an attunement, an alignment. And by that, I mean, pretty much they will hit each energy portal or energy vortex. They will choose a crystal for each area, which is truly amazing. I love seeing that. However, people that come often, and they're more in the spirituality and opening up and everything, then you'll see the high vibe crystals,
Yeah.
right? You Herkimer diamond, apophyllite.
Apophyllite. Okay. Yeah.
Apophyllite. Yeah, and you Arielite, Super 7. You'll see all
I've
these
got
high,
a bunch of Super Sevens around too. Yeah.
the high vibrational. Then you have people they want either I've done grounding layouts, and then you've also the love layouts, right? Then you have all like the rose quartz. I love working with mango calcite. I love that one. It's gentler. I love a lepidolite, the
That's
softer,
what I call one.
calming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
because
calm.
Lepidolite they give it to you for bipolar medicine. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Lithium.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, yeah, lithium. That's
I'm
all I
not, yeah, I'm
remember.
so bad with the science. Like I even had books, that got into the chemical compound, and I'm like,
Compensa.
my brain cannot retain that kind of stuff. So yeah, even when you were talking, I'm like, you are just very well rounded in your understanding of crystals and working with the crystal energy and the metaphysical and the, you know, uh,
I love it. I just
so, but it's
absolutely love it.
interesting because the calcite, that's not one that I was typically drawn to. And then there was just this one year where I ended up getting a bunch of different pieces, and I'm very drawn to the blue calcite, and it almost
Love
has this
it.
kind of very calming, angelic energy to
Yes.
me. And then the other one I got was the orange, and that was, to kind of work on my solar and sacred, so I'll put it near my bed, or I'll literally just sometimes lay there with them on me, or with a certain chakra. Like, and I'll do that with the selenite sometimes when I just need to clear my energy. I have a big piece and I'll just kind of lay it on the center of my stomach there. It's interesting. I've talked to a lot of different shop owners of metaphysical stores and people, that also sell crystals. And they said it's very interesting because people will walk in the store and they'll immediately go to one crystal. Then they'll continue to walk around and shop and look. And before they leave, they'll end up going back to the first crystal that they looked at, leaving with that crystal. But it's just interesting how that, again, initial being drawn to it, and then we go, well, no, I want to look a little bit more, and the crystal's sitting there going, nope, you need to come back
This
and
one,
you
you're
need to.
right. It's a crystal consciousness. Once you start playing with it, it kind of, and I like bringing joy. I'm very lighthearted. I feel that once you kind of start playing with them, they play with you back. I don't know, or maybe it's that
Yeah.
intention that I set out, but it is so much fun to see how it does play out. I had one of my daughters actually go with me. We were in Chicago, and they usually follow me. Now they're older, but to any of the crystal stores, well, they're both very sensitive. And the one walked in and she was there for a while. She got so overwhelmed by the energy.
That happens to me
She
too.
was
Yeah.
perspiring, she was sweating. I had to tell her, step out for a while and ground yourself, because it was so overwhelming. So that's also something that I like to share with people. For some people, and especially like you, Mel, I can feel you and I can sense that your energy is highly sensitive, highly, highly sensitive. By that, I mean that I can feel that it's powerful, like it's energetically charged. That's how I feel it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I
So that's,
went, I went,
I can clear a room, or, like
yeah,
either be in a bad mood, or I can uplift the room. It just all depends on where my energy and
yeah,
my
it
mood
is.
is, for that day.
So I don't
So,
know
but
why that came in.
a lot of times, because I make crystal kits too. Like, I make a little beginner kit and I
Mhm.
make a little protection kit. And I very much believe in keeping it very simple. The crystal may have one need for one person and a completely different one for the next person. But so again, just very simple. And so I've sold, intention kits for people that were trying to manifest homes. My mom's friend had reached out. She was trying, like, a house for sell next to her. She even said, she had like 4 issues going on. And my mom came to me, do you have crystals or something that you could maybe sell to her to help her? And I said, I'll just give her one of my kits, and I
Mhm.
kind of told her what to do in it. And she said every single thing she was worried about went away in a month. She goes, I don't know what you're doing with those things, but it works,
It
Uh,
works.
yeah, and that's, and again, giving the rose quartz out to people. I've done that for addiction, for heartache, for grief, and things like that, which a lot of times when someone passes away, I will gift people a piece of selenite. I make the candles with the crystals too, and just suggest lighting them, because I had read that selenite kind of helps, clear the energy and helps the soul cross over peacefully. And again, it's something very simple, whether you believe in crystals or not. It just brings some kind of comforting feeling. There's like a physical aspect that you can set an intention with to give to people. But a lot of times, someone will be telling me something and I'll have spirit say, you need to give them this one, or suggest that. Like, I have another friend who, she's kind of searching for love right now. And I feel very guided to get her the candle and get her the rose quartz, and like even, make little simple grids. Like, I've got one right now for myself with a candle, and I've got the rose quartz around with the Hermica diamonds, just again to like kind of open my heart chakra more, that I had done for me when I feel like I'm getting tighter, closing up, or something like that. So again, same kind of with you, just some people will come to me for certain ones they need, but a lot of times it's, me intuitively
Mhm.
feeling guided to give someone something or suggest a crystal for them. I'm not into the making a ton of money. I see how some people are charging prices because that's what the market value is. And I feel like it kind of takes away the magic part of it. It makes it this like commodity to make a profit off of. I invest my money and my time and my energy into purchasing or, building and making my crafts that I make and having to package them and market them. But I still want to keep that kind of magic alive and it for healing and helping people
Absolutely.
and then be able to kind of pass that on too. So yeah.
And so what kind of crafts do you do? I mean, other than the boxes, which by the way, I also wanted to mention that those grids are powerful. Yeah, grids are like that sacred geometry. It does amplify. They are super powerful. But I was just curious to see what are the items that you sell, you have in your business. I'm not familiar with.
So I make these little sprays.
Cool.
And
I didn't know.
I call them kind of like a, high vibe intention spray. So, a lot of times people don't like sage, or you can't necessarily, like in my office space, I can't burn sage in there. There's no windows and we'll set smoke alarms on. So
Mhm.
perfect for that. When I feel anxiety or like in the car, a lot of times I get anxiety sitting in traffic, I'll use this. Excuse me, I've been out in places with people where they're starting to have a panic attack or, anxiety attack. And I'll ask, is it okay if I kind of spray this around you? And they, oh God, what's in that? It's so calming.